Good evening, everybody. Appreciate y'all joining me on my Zepaversary tonight. I am just about to get started. I actually wanted to bull Darium skin a little bit, so I figured I'd be fashionably late, about 15 minutes, so that way we give him something to start to talk about. All right, so we are on subscriber only mode for at least 20 minutes. At least 20 minutes. We're trying to grow the channel, but we will be on that to avoid any kind of interruption. Well, I got a decent, fun-filled, packed agenda for tonight. I would like to just say hello to everyone that decided to grace my channel. I do appreciate you all. Obviously, you guys are subscribers, so you know the backstory. But this is tomorrow is actually officially my 1 year anniversary since starting Zepbound. My 1 year anniversary for doing being an influencer is actually, I believe, sometime in March. So I'll do something else for that. But as far as taking my first shot, it was actually January 5th of 2025. So with us being in 2026, I'm just elated that my progress that I actually made over the last 12 months. So we'll get into that, and then like I said, we're gonna break down my annual lab report, which is also very interesting, and talk about the future and a few other topics that I have based on some other influencer content that I saw over the last couple of days. So let's see who's in here tonight. We got Felicia. Hey, Felicia. Thank you. She is Tamika. Thank you. Darium. Thank you. So we got about 15 people in here, so I'm gonna just get going, right? All right. So I'm gonna get right into the numbers. So I had my annual physical on this past, I want to say Tuesday. My actual blood work was done on Christmas Eve. So I actually got a very comprehensive panel. I have my CDC platelets. I got all of the cancer screenings, so I want to go over that. I actually was able to get them early. I thought I would have to wait, but the only one that I'm actually have to wait for is my colonoscopy. So I'll do the colonoscopy because I have to make an appointment, which I already made. Been super proactive. I already made my appointment, so I'll see the doctor, and then me and him will schedule the colonoscopy. So that's where I'll be able to get real. Because I could have got the Cologuard, but I'm not. I want official, official results. I want them to go. And that's not to say Cologuard isn't official, but I want it to be, super certain. So I actually will be getting a colonoscopy in March. I also made a appointment with the cardiologist because that's the only other thing that I needed to do, because it's been more than a year and a half since I seen the cardiologist. So I will actually be. I made that appointment too. So both of those appointments are in March. So I have a colonoscopy and more than likely an appointment, and then heart ultrasound, which was the only things that I wasn't able to go over with my physician. Is heart and colon. Everything else, literally, I went over, including prostate. I even did the PSA, so I had those results, and thyroid. I have those results. So we're gonna go over all of that stuff, and I'm gonna go and give. I have my MacBook out tonight, so I'm actually gonna go through the actual test and what the meanings are for everybody. Okay. Just look at the chat before I get started. Darren said, I'm out. Hey, losing it with Grays. Maybe I should just say grades. Yvette, how are you? Greetings. Hey, Jen, how are you? And Michelle. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Year to everybody. If I forgot to say it, sometime I could get going, and some things evade me because I have so many things that I want to cover that I might forget. Okay, so I want to get right into it. And next live, I'll probably go horizontal. I wanted to do it tonight, but I actually saved it, and I'm gonna still do the vertical, but I'll move the horizontal since a lot of people like that, too. So you might as well get comfortable because we got a lot of information to go over tonight. So I hope that you are, nice and comfortable, and you got, everything done, because this should be a decent conversation. All right. So let's jump right into the. Well, before that, let me just talk about the anniversary real fast. Then I'll go into the lab results. So, like I said, January 5th of 2025 is when I started my journey. For those that have followed me the entire time, you'll know that I actually started out losing 15 pounds in my first month, right? I lost 13 pounds the next month, 12 pounds a month after that, 9 pounds a month after that. And then it was kind of like 8, 7, 6. So that brings me to my actual total weight loss of 91 pounds today. So I think that's super amazing that I went from all the way from 319 pounds to sitting at 229 pounds to 228 pounds right now tonight. So I think that's amazing because I'm literally, that lands me, what is that? Not 10, 11, 10 pounds, just 9 pounds away from my actual original goal, which was 100 pounds. So 91 pounds down. That other 9 pounds is what would take me out of obesity into just being overweight. So most know my ultimate goal is to be, right around 199 or 200 pounds, which actually puts me at 26.9 BMI. And that is where prominent doctors say that the things that actually, are burdensome, like the certain cancers and things like that, it puts you out of that risk category, once you get to that kind of BMI, which again, we use loosely. I'm going to cover something in regards to the BMI because Vanity Reigns, if you follow her channel, she went over that, the new, one particular study that's actually pointing to BMI being categorized a different way, and not just simply through height versus weight, but also using waist circumference. So we'll dive into that a little bit at the end. So, but yeah, I'm just glad to be down 91 pounds. Appreciate that, Darren. So let's do it. Let's get right into it. So I go through LabCorp. LabCorp is, I used to go through Quest, but now they have me going through LabCorp for my actual results. So that's where I actually went. So the one thing I'll say is a lot of labs actually have different parameters for their testing, right? The parameters for testing sometimes could put you at a certain category that you might not be at a different lab. So it's important to know that, but they're all generally the same, right? And I say that because I had a very, very good lab result. Findings were amazing. I had one thing out of bounds, just trivially, like marginally. And in all actuality, that one thing, if I look at the national criteria for that particular thing, I actually was not out of bounds, but it was like 0.5% out of bounds for this particular lab, right? I learned that years ago when they said that some labs, have different parameters for different things. And this LabCorp is what we call a stickler, right? They have very tight constraints on what it is they consider, where you fall with a specific particular result. So, and I'm fine with it because I would much rather be, extra precautious versus not at all, right? Or not. So that's something that I actually, do believe in, right? So let's dive in with the CDC panel. So we'll do that first. So the CDC is obviously blood. Your blood, it has to do with your blood. And the thing is, I want to actually read the definitions before we actually get in to What is this? Traveling to those, whose insurance covers that plan? Which insurance do you have? So traveling techie, I have Optum. I mean, I have Blue Cross Blue Shield, but Optum is the PBM. So you probably got to look into the PBM if that's what you're looking for. Not just the main carrier, but the PBM. And my benefit manager is Optum. So, and I'm on the actual pen. So back to the results. So basically, let's start with the blood, right? So in the blood, what you can do is you can, yes, absolutely. Well, I'm doing CBC, right? So let's start with that. So this is something that where you can test to see if you have anemia, different types of blood cancers and things of that nature. So we started with that. So my WBC, right, detects the number of white blood cells or leukocytes in the body, cells that fight off infection and foreign agents that may infect the body. For example, high levels of WBCs may result from a number of conditions, including infection or inflammation, and low levels may result from others, including as a sign of weakened immune system. So the actual normal ratio is going to be 3.4 to 10.8, right? Anywhere in that, you'll fall normal. So mine was right around a 7. So I'm literally a 6.9 in the middle of what would actually be normal. So that was very good. The RBC is the measure of red blood cells or erythrocytes in the blood. Red blood cells contain hemoglobin, a protein that carries oxygen through the body. High levels of red blood cell counts with high hemoglobin and high hematocrit may increase disease of production of blood cells. So I fell at a 5, and good is between 4.1 and 5.8. So I'm right in the middle there. Hemoglobin. So this measures the amount of hemoglobin in the blood. The oxygen carries protein in the red blood cells. Low amounts of hemoglobin combined with low red blood cells counts and low hematocrit may indicate anemia. So this is what I was saying about the anemia. This is one where actually you actually get into seeing whether or not you are anemic, right? So this one here also talks about the obvious iron deficiency because we talk about anemia. So I fell right in the normal range of a 13.7 out of 13 to 17. So that was very good. The hematocrit, which I was just talking about, measures the proportion of the red blood cells to the fluid component or plasma. So this is about plasma in the blood. So low amounts combined with other results may indicate the presence of anemia, right? So this is more anemia, iron deficiency, and things of that nature. So you pretty much want to fall between a 37 and a 51. I fell right at a 43. So I'm in between, right at normal. And the MCV measures the size of your red blood cells, right? And if they're lower or higher than normal, it may be a sign of a health problem, clearly. And again, we're on MCV, and we're still in the platelets. We're talking about platelets. So that was normal, right? And then mind you, a lot of this right here that we're talking about is what would give you a clue into anemia and different types of blood cancers. So that's why you want to actually, go through these panels, and request them, at least annually to make sure that there's nothing out of bounds, okay? So as far as that is concerned, that was an 85. So 80 to 97 is actually very normal. MCH measures MCH levels, the average amount of hemoglobin found in the red blood cells in the body. That goes from 26 to 33. I was at 27. So normal. MCHC measures the average weight of the hemoglobin, which is more volume, right? So with that one, you want to be anywhere between a 31 and a 36, and I'm at a 32. So I'm in between on that one. I was in the middle for a lot of these things. Durham says if you have commercial insurance through your employer, they have to opt into either weight loss medications or Zepbound for moderate to severe sleep apnea. You have to check with your employer's plan. Is that Blue Cross Blue Shield. You can find this online pretty easy now, or even the chat 24 hours. Mine is Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I have Optum, like I said, as the actual carrier. I mean, as the PBM, which is the pharmacy benefit manager. All right, so let me lift my camera up just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. I feel like you're like looking down at me. There we go. So, yep, much better. And I need to slow down just a little bit because I feel like I'm running through these a little bit too fast. So I'll slow down just a little bit. All right, so we are still on platelets, and we're at RDW. So RDW measures the size and the volume of the body's red blood cells. Typically, red blood cells are relatively equal in shape and size. However, red blood cells can have a distorted shape or be smaller or larger than normal due to some health conditions and diseases. So where I landed for that is, and I'll tell you in just one second. I landed right at 13.6. So I'm literally right in the middle. I'm right in the middle of, I had to shut my alarms off on, I don't know, there's an alarm for some reason on my watch. So I had to, quiet that. But yeah, so I'm at 13.6 for that, which is normal, and actual platelet count. So that's what we're about to get into now. So this is the measure of the number of platelets in the blood. The cell components essentially for blood clotting, right? Low levels can lead to bleeding risk and may be due to a variety of causes such as liver disease, infections, medications, or bone marrow disorders. High levels can be caused by inflammation or bone marrow disorders, among other diseases. And pretty much with your platelets, for a normal measure, you want to be between 150 and 450. I'm smack in the middle at 222. So that is very good. So those are the basic red blood cells, platelets, and what have you that we look for anemia and sort of kind of like those different blood cancers, right? So I was very normal and virtually in the middle on almost every measure. So I was excited about that. So they like I said, because I had cancer screenings, they dive pretty deep. So they have something called neutrophils. They have the lymphs. They have the monocytes. They have the eos. They have the basos, and they have the. If I go back to the top. The results for each one, because again, this was a comprehensive, both annual blood and cancer screening. So I have the absolute or neutrophils fell, and again, we're talking about this quantifies the number of neutrophils. These are the type of white blood cells that destroy bacteria and fungi and protect the body from infection, right? Increased levels may result from many conditions, including an immune response to infection, injury, inflammation, certain medications, or bone marrow disorders. Okay? So all of these, I won't reread that because the neutrophils, the lymphs, the monocytes, and the eos are all regarding the white blood cells. So that's what we're talking about. And the basos. Don't want to leave the basos out, right? So they actually went through all of these. And we'll start with the absolutes. So the neutrophils and the lymphs. So neutrophils first. So anywhere you want to be anywhere between 1.4 and 7. I was at 3.6. So again, like I told you, I was smack in the middle, right? Absolute of normal, in the middle of normal, which is you can't be. It can't get any better than that. Being in the middle of normal, that's just extremely normal. And then the lymphs. You want to be anywhere between 0.7 and 3.1. I was at 2.7. And the absolute monocytes, you want to be anywhere between 0.1 and 0.9. I was at 0.4. The eos, which is another absolute, white blood cells we're talking about. You want to be less than 0.4%, all the way up to, the normal is less than or equal to 0.4%. I was 0.1%, which is 0.1. 0.1. And my absolute basos, again, white blood cell, you want to be at 0.2 or less. You want to be at 0.2 or less. And that would obviously be, nothing. And I was nothing. I was 0.0. So I am super excited about all of those blood cancer screening results, you know, for leukemia, anemia, and those things of that nature. So I'm elated that there are no signs of any of that, right? Travel Techie 415 is in here going off about his insurance. Hopefully somebody. I tried getting an answer from Anaheim before, but they wouldn't answer me. Um, yeah, insurance is something that we could do a whole thing on, but I mean that's just at this point, it's almost like they leaning towards like trying to make sure all of us pay for it, you know. So that's the way it go. So appreciate that, Darium. So yeah, those are the blood numbers. And now I'm about to get into my comprehensive metabolic panel. Okay. Um, so let's go into that. And I'm not ignoring anybody. Travel Techie, if you want to just hold your questions about this insurance until we done, we can go into that. But let's go over the results, and then once we done, we'll go back to the insurance questions if you really want some attention, placed on that. Right now, we're gonna go over the lab results, and then we'll get back to the insurance with you because I have no problem going over that because I do have a lot of information in regards to that. So we can help you out, but just hang tight. We're gonna go through the blood results, and then we'll go back to that, just so we don't spam the chat with something different than what we actually focusing on. All right, appreciate you. So now we're getting into the comprehensive metabolic panel. So this is something that everybody is pretty familiar with because this is glucose, BUN, creatinine, the EGFR, and the BUN creatinine ratio, which all in regards, kidney function, right? Kidney function and this part of the metabolic panel. Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the kidney right now, right? So as far as glucose is concerned, obviously almost, everybody in here should know what that is. And normal is between 70 and 99. I was at a 78. My BUN, which is the blood urea nitrogen, is protein waste product removed from the blood by the kidneys. High levels may be a sign that your kidneys are not working. There may be a sign of dehydration or other conditions. So you want to be anywhere between the 6 and the 24. I was at an 11. So, the 11 is actually, it's good because I'm usually between 11 and the 13. So no real change there. I did have one high number, which was the creatinine. Now, the creatinine is what I started the video talking about, right? So when I actually started the video and I was talking about the creatinine, I did say that there's a national lab that actually has the parameters set for high would be considered 1.34, right? Or 1.35, I'm sorry. 1.35 or more would be considered high. So in LabCorp, they set high at 1.29, right? 1.29. So they give it like a, they actually decrease because I told you this lab is more strict with certain results. So mine was at 1.29, right? So it's right there at the borderline of what would be considered high. And I went over that with the doctor, and literally out of my entire blood panel, that was the only thing. And she said that more than likely for me would be one or two things: a little bit of dehydration, possibly, or either it was from me actually taking the painkillers over the time period that I actually took them for my surgery, which I don't take anymore. I only took that for about a few weeks. So I'm leaning towards dehydration because that was back in November, right? That was November, late October, November that I was doing that, and then by the time I took this on Christmas Eve, that was way beyond that period. So I'm going to say it possibly is like maybe just a little bit of dehydration. But you would, and again, it's decreased muscle mass, and lower levels may indicate decreased muscle mass, but mine is higher. So that is usually more of a sign of the dehydration. So, which is very common on this. But I do have conflicting results because later on I'm gonna tell you why I don't think I am, right? So let's keep going. The estimated glomerular filtration is the EGFR, which is this is another kidney factor. So this is pretty much estimating your kidney filtration rate, right? So this is used to determine your level of kidney function. The higher the EGFR number, the better your kidneys are working. Lower results may be a sign of kidney disease. So my EGFR is in the normal range, right? And so what does that mean? That means that it's greater than 60, right? Because if it's 59 or less, then you want to talk about, ways to prevent it from dropping further into that moderate to severe to what is kidney failure. And that would be, just so people know, kidney failure is when it's 14 or less, right? 14 or less. But they start really diving in when you're at like a 59 of trying to stop you from getting there. And mine is at a 70, so we're pretty good. The high end of normal is 90. That would be more of a perfection type, kind of like, younger people or people that don't have any type of conditions. I have hypertension, so it's pretty normal for me to be kind of a middle-aged person at 45, soon to be 45, with a history of hypertension and obesity that, I would be at a 70. And I'm usually right around that, so but that's a normal range. That's a normal range. The creatinine ratio, which is when they actually so a comparison of these levels, these two waste products are another measure that they use for the kidney function, right? So an increased ratio may be due to acute kidney disorders, dehydration, increased protein intake, gastrointestinal bleeding, and other causes, right? So a low ratio can be seen in liver disease, pregnancy, poor nutrition, and other conditions. So again, we're talking about the kidney. So mine's is a 9. So between a 9 and 20 is absolutely normal. It's absolutely normal between 9 and 20. And again, we're talking about the ratio, right? So these are the things that talk about my kidney filtration, right? So I'm normal. I have no concern. My doctor didn't have any concerns, and we will be back in May to actually follow up on that one creatinine, which was actually right at the tip of what would be out of bounds. So at that 1.29, which it wasn't in May. So that literally was a slight tick, because I think I was at 1.26, now 1.29. And like I said, generally, nationally, that wouldn't even be considered, okay? So next we're going to talk about electrolytes. This is the one that everybody, we measure electrolytes. The one that we say everybody ripping those packs and pouring the tons of salt in the water and drinking it because they feel like the electrolytes is and potassium is low. Well, we're going to talk about that because that's where I'm at now. So sodium, an electrically charged mineral necessary for healthy muscle and nerve function, and also helps to maintain fluid balance. An abnormal sodium result most likely reflects abnormalities of water balance in the body that may have a number of causes. So where you want to typically be is anywhere between 134 and 144, right? 134 and 144. I landed at 138. So again, right in the middle of normal. So I do not have an electrolyte problem based on sodium. Potassium, right? Much of the same. Normal would be a 3.5 to 5.2. In the middle again at a 4.1. So I'm what you call a normal when it comes to sodium and potassium. And that final measure that they use for that is chloride. So chloride will be anywhere between 96 and 106. I'm right at 100. So more of that middle, right? This middle ain't messy though, Darian. This is not a messy middle. This is actually a great middle. This is middle, normal, and this is the middle we want. Not messy middle. So the next step is the pH balance, which is your carbon dioxide. No electrolytes for you. Have the element and liquid and drip drop along. Yeah, because I don't mess with that. I had it one time. And I was like, ooh, this is a lot of salt. And I just don't, need. And I think a lot of people that be pouring and yakking on it, dumping all that salt on their stuff, they probably don't need it either. They probably just going off of, habit because they see people on the internet doing it. But you should probably get, tested and see where electrolytes actually are. So carbon dioxide is where we are. So a waste product created by the body's metabolism that helps maintain the body's acid-base pH balance in the form of electrolyte bicarbonate. Abnormal values may reflect an acid-base imbalance, which can be caused by a variety of conditions. I was normal. I was at a 24. Out of a 20 to 29, I was at a 24. Calcium, a mineral essential to the bone and muscle, right? So we all know what calcium is, right? So this is really digging into the vitamin D conversation, right? Because, you probably, need a little bit of vitamin D to help that, with that calcium abnormalities and the lack thereof. So once again, I think we get the theme here. I was a 9.7, so I'm right in the middle. 8.7 and 10.2 is actually what would be considered normal, and I'm at 9.7 for my calcium. So not deficient there. All right, let's get into a real big one for everybody. Protein. So on your scale, right, your smart scale, I'm pretty sure you see if you have the smart, because on my smart scale, it does measure like the protein intake and where you are. When I started out on the treatment, I was actually probably at I want to say like a 12. I want to say. Um, I was at 319 pounds, but my protein was at like a 12 point something or other. I can't really remember 100%, maybe even a 13. Today, my protein and the scale is between 11 and I think 16. 16 is when you're kind of like proper nutrition, and then 20, you may be a little bit over. So 16 is kind of where you want to get to, and if I use my actual scale, it has me at 15.9. So I'm a tenth of a percent right away from that. Right away from that. That measure. Like 16 is like perfect protein, and this is the blood result of that of what we gauge that with, right? So technically, if you're getting enough protein, that blood level will actually show that. And this is albumin and globulin, right? This is gonna show. What does Jen say? You mean to tell me when my favorite YouTuber that got paid to promote electrolytes tells me to drink it, I don't need to. Nope, don't do it. Stop drinking all that, putting all that salt in you, because you probably don't need it. You just dumping, and you know what I mean? You need electrolytes. You don't need that. You don't need that. It's just wasting your money. Now, some people do. If you're cramping up a lot and all that, and you notice it, get tested. But most of us don't. But the result, let's go over the result. So the result for that one was, and this is a scale between 6 and 8.5. 6 and 8.5, right? So now, with the way the results have been going this far, throw it in the chat. I want y'all to tell me where y'all think my protein landed, right? Use my code for 50 cents off the first. Hey, listen. I want everybody to eat. Everybody eats, B. So if you want to dump all that salt in your water, you go right ahead. Put it up there. Put it up there. So in the chat, right? I want y'all to pretty much guess where my protein landed, right? Because so the scale is, let me give you the scale. The scale for protein, as far as on a blood lab result, goes from 6 to 8.5. 6 to 8.5. And if you think about all the results I've given you so far, starting with the cancer screenings for the white blood cells for the anemia, and blood cancer and the kidney, and where everything has been falling, just throw it in the chat where y'all think my actual protein fell. And it could be anywhere from hey, Miss Nikki, it could be anywhere from a 6 to an 8.5. I was in a normal range, but the normal range is anywhere from a 6 to an 8.5. A low range would be 5.4, and a high range would be 9.3. 9.3. So 9.3 is very high, and 5.4 is very low protein. So my protein was normal, right? So that means I'm between a 6 and an 8.5. So just throw in the chat where y'all think that I might have landed, and I'll come back to that one and tell you what it was. All right? And I'm gonna break down the two things they use to actually come up with that protein. So that might be a giveaway, but I'm gonna tell y'all anyway. So the albumin, right, the main protein that circulates in the blood, which provides tissue nourishment and carries substances such as hormones and drugs in the blood, and helps to keep fluids within the blood vessels. Low levels may be a sign of malnutrition or disease of the liver, your thyroids or kidneys, among other. Higher than normal levels may indicate dehydration or others. And this is why I'm saying I wasn't super worried about the creatinine and that that measure, is because my albumin is also normal, is at 4.8. So 4.1 to 5.1 is normal. So when I'm saying these ranges, I'm just giving y'all what is considered where the normal range lies. Now, if you want to go stretch that out and say what's low and what's high, a low albumin will be a 3.6 and a 5.5, right? I was at a 4.8, which is smack in the middle at normal. And the globulin, which is the other protein used to transport nutrients in the body, and this is the one. This globulin is the one that pretty much doctors can use to look at that chronic inflammation, right? Because we talk a lot about inflammation. And when I get to the bottom, I'm gonna tell y'all, where I was at, like I said, with that protein. Good guess, Tamika. You're close. Good guess. Good guess. See if somebody else might hit that. So basically, we trying to guess my protein where I landed at in between the 6 and the 8.5. I was normal, but that I want to know if y'all know where I landed. So the globulin was 2.7, and that's between a 1.4 and a 4.5. So again, smack in the middle. And again, that's what they use to determine your chronic inflammation, right? All right. So before we move on, so I'll give y'all an answer. So I was at a 7.5. So if we had prizes, Tamika would have won. She beat you, Darian. So Tamika, you beat, and Darian lost. Okay, so there you go. You won. We give Darian a chance later on. Maybe he'll catch up. Maybe he'll catch something up. All right, so yes, I was at a 7.5 in protein, which is very good, and I'm happy about that because all of these things we look at on these scales, and we be wondering, like, man, is it right? Is it wrong? Is it close? You know what I mean? So, Gray says free electrolytes for everyone. Yeah, free for the one. You know what? The ones I got in the cabinet. Drop your addresses. I'll send them out to y'all because I ain't never used them. The ones I bought from day one when I was getting my survival pack. Because everybody tell you what the survival pack is, and which we really don't know until we actually dive in and to our journeys what that's going to be for us. But we all use that survival pack. All right, so now we're going to get into the thyroid, right? Because we just went over the kidneys. Right, we went over the white blood cells, which talked about blood cancers and anemia, and now we're gonna get into the liver and the gallbladder, right? On what they use to test that, right? We're gonna get into liver, right? Liver is a very important one, and so we have. I'm just counting the measures. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3. 4. There's 4 measures for the liver. There's 4, right? So the first one is going to be what they call it's called bilirubin. Bilirubin, right? So a waste product by the liver, a waste product produced by the liver as it breaks down red blood cells. High levels may be a sign of liver or gallbladder disease, right? Or excessive breakdown of red blood cells, among other conditions. So you pretty much, the spectrum is anywhere from below 1.2 to above 2.1. I was at a 0.4, 0.4. So I don't even register. I'm normal. I'm absolutely normal with that. The alkaline phosphate. This is another one that they look at for the liver, right? Who says, "Oh no, feel better"? Somebody sick? I missed that. I took my shingles vaccine and I was down bad. Oh man, is that you really took the shingles yesterday? Look at you being responsible. Damn, getting that vaccine. Nice. Well, hey, look, at least you recovered for them. No, I'm all good with the electrolytes. I just think that we overdo it. Like we all, you see people pouring them in around the clock. If you got to use it, use it. I use it at first when I had some cramping in my legs and stuff. But I think people overdo it. They overdo it. Using them like around the clock. You don't need to be pouring that in several times a day. That doesn't make any sense. People selling you product. So the alkaline phosphate, which is another measure of the kidney, it goes anywhere from 47 to 123. I was at a 90. So more middle of the pack. And the AST, which is enzymes that they use to test the liver, and it goes anywhere from, and the last one, I'm sorry, the lowest, the absolute lowest is 37, and that would be bad for your liver, and 149, above 149, which will also be bad because that's very high. You want to be kind of in the middle, and I'm at a middle in the 80 with the 89. The another liver, this enzyme it says an enzyme found in the cells throughout the body, but mostly in the cells of the heart and the liver, AST, which is aspartate aminotransferase, could be signs of liver damage and other conditions. I was a 16. So what you want to be is less than 40. You want to be less than 40, right? So It says, sir, didn't Dr. Jen teach you anything? Speak your truth and don't back down. If you don't like electrolytes, double down. No, 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 no. I don't have a problem with electrolytes. I don't have a problem with electrolytes. I just think we overuse them. Like we do a lot of things. We just go crazy and just like start using them as a regimen. Everything that we see don't need to be a regimen. Some things we use to get better and then move forward. So the enzymes, yeah, so we're talking about enzymes found in the heart and liver. So that was 16. Like I said, 40 is your is you want to be below a 40, below 40. And this is, people have seen this as high as 401. So being a 16 is just amazing. I'm glad of that. There's another enzyme found in the liver, ALT. That was a 17, and that wants, you want that to be below a 44. So the liver was very good. It was very, very good. Liver's good, kidney's good. You know, hopefully y'all keeping up with this. We got the white blood cancer screenings, anemia, the gallbladder, the liver, the kidneys. We went over all those organs, right? All good. So now let's get into one that I know most of you guys are familiar with, you know, and that's the lipid panel, right? Let's talk about the lipid panel. So we'll start with cholesterol. We'll go through the cholesterol total, right? We'll go through the triglycerides, and then we'll go through HDL, and then we'll go through the very low density cholesterol, and then we'll go through the LDL, right? So we'll go through each one of those now. So, all right. So I was a total. Now let me tell you what acceptable and what high is, right? So most of us know with cholesterol, you want to be below 200, right? You want to be below 200, period, right? But now when you get below 200, being higher is not necessarily bad, depending on which one we're talking about, right? Which level we're talking about, right? So my total was 167, right? That was the total, right? But let's break it down, right? Because the total is LDL, HDL, and VLDL, right? Which is very low density LDL, right? So triglycerides, right? So triglycerides measure the number of triglycerides in the blood, a type of fat that circulates in your blood and comes from adipose, right? All of us know about that adipose, right? The primary fat stored from food used to supply your energy. So that's right there in that gut, right? That adipose. So high triglyceride level can increase the risk of heart disease and may be a sign of metabolic syndrome, a genetic abnormality, or other condition, right? So this is the big one, right? So now, at one time or two, I've had high triglycerides, right? But right now, like I said, you want your triglycerides to be below a 149. My triglycerides are a 60. 60. That's where my triglycerides measure. Very, very normal. Very normal. So I'm excited about that. But the most exciting one is the HDL for me, right? So this measures the amount of high density low lipoprotein, which is the HDL, right? Lipoprotein, I should say. Measures the amount of high density lipoprotein, right? HDL cholesterol in blood, known as good cholesterol, because it comes from particles that remove bad cholesterol from the body, which reduces the risk of heart disease and stroke. The higher this level is, the HDL value, the better. The higher, the better. Now, let's talk about a scale, right? Let's talk about a scale. So the scale for this goes anywhere from below 39, which is a risk, right? Now, last year when I did this, I was at 39. I was at 39. So now this same measure is at 56. Now, if you remember, I said that the best value, right, was 60, right? So I've improved my good cholesterol all the way up to a 56. 56, right? You getting your blood work done, Miss Nikki? It says I have to save this video. I'm getting my blood work done this week. Yes, absolutely. Please save it because I'm giving you every single one. Go back and watch it. I'm literally giving you the definition of every single measure on the blood work. I think this is super important. We, especially people that have diabetes and even that don't, right? And deal with the metabolic panels and all of these cancers, right? Because when we get on here, what's the main thing we're talking about? Cancer, obesity, and these different panels. And a lot of times we get these things and we just get these acronyms, the 3-letter acronyms, and we don't know, what's what. So what I'm giving you is definition and ranges, right, of where they should fall in. So I think this is, to me, like one of the most important videos that I've done. You know, not only is it my 1 year of Zepaversary of being on Zepbound and changing everything around my health. This is actually very important to be able to see, you know, through the blood. Like this is all facts, right? So we can get on these airways and say a lot of stuff, but this right here is the proof in the pudding, right? This is it, right? So like I said, I was a 56 out of a possible 60, right? So that's how well my good cholesterol has jumped up, right? And then we're going to look at the low density like a lipoprotein, right? Which is the VLDL. This is the very low density, right? So what this is the cholesterol from particles that carry triglycerides in the blood that are often then converted, to LDL, right? So high levels of VLDL associated with higher risk of cardiovascular disease. So I should go back and say that this part is covering the heart, right? So all of these measures kind of cover the heart, right? Because we started with the white blood cells, talking about, you know, blood cancer and anemia. We went on ahead and moved on down to the kidneys. We went through the liver. We went through the gallbladder, right? And now we're going through the heart, right? These are all the important things that are inside the body, right? So my measure here, so the absolute lowest would be be lower than 4, and high would be higher than 50, right? So normal is between 5 and 40. I was at a 12. So I'm way down there, you know, in the very, very, very good area, right? So the LDL, right? This is the bad cholesterol, right? This is known as bad cholesterol, right? These are the particles that can build up in the walls of the arteries, which increase the risk of heart attack and stroke, right? So you got optimal and you have very, very high. So I'll start by saying I was normal. So, and I'm glad of that, right? So optimal is a 69 and very high is 190, right? 190. I was a 99. So I'm in the normal range because normal is 70 to 99, right? Some say 100, but yeah. So that's what I was. I was in the normal. So that's where I got that 167. All very, very good. So now we are going to get into... So we'll go back into, remember I started about the creatinine and that ratio. So actually they have more notes down below. And I'm actually going to say what that is because they did do a ratio, right? You're doing it great. Labs. Yes, absolutely. Appreciate that, Darren. And they are great. These labs are, I can't be, more happy, with the results. So we still got a few things to go though. We got to go over the prostate cancer. We got to go over the thyroid. But I'm gonna go back to remember I said that creatinine, I was talking about that creatinine level. So this is the album creatinine ratio, right? The other measure they use, and why I said I wasn't concerned about that creatinine, right? Because this is the other blood measure that they use to determine that. That first one is, more the urine. This is the blood. So albumin to creatinine, right? ACR is a calculation that measures albumin in the urine and compares it to the urine creatinine levels to correct for urine concentration, right? Creatinine is an indicator of urine concentration because it is released into the urine at a constant rate as waste, which is what I just said. So high levels may be a sign of kidney damage, which we all just went through with my levels and saw it was good. So here, you want to be less than a 29. You want this ratio to be less than 29. Significant would be 301. My ratio was 12. It was 12. It was very green. So that's why I'm very calm about the creatinine, the one level, which was the creatinine, right? So, hey, Shy, how you doing? We just in here going over my lab. So you probably got to go back to catch everything. But, when you get time, check it out. Check out the lab work, okay? Because I think it was very good. This was very enlightening because if you do get lab work, I literally went over what all of these little three-digit, words mean, right? Because we get all these little acronyms and don't know, what exactly, they stand for. But this I felt like was the right thing to do because people usually have these questions. So I'm pretty much going over all of that for us tonight. All right. So let's get into the prostate, right? Because we want to talk about that, right? All right. So the PSA levels is what you're going to check out for your prostate, right? That's what you want to check out or ask for as if you're a male and you go and get these annual blood works, right? Especially if you're of a certain age, 40 and over, right? I'd say get it as soon as possible, but like I said, I'll be 45 soon, so I wanted to know what mine was, and I'm gonna get into it. So this test measures prostate-specific antigen, right? This is a protein produced by body healthy and cancerous cells in the prostate gland, right? So now this won't guarantee or confirm the presence or absence of it, because you probably would get a biopsy, if it was elevated, right? So elevated PSA results can stem from common benign prostate conditions as well as cancer, right? So this is what you want, where you want to start at. So because I wanted to know, this is where I decided to start at, and the range. So the range for normal should be less than 4, right? Less than 4, right? If you actually are between 4 and 10, it may still be okay based on what your age is. Now you can also go and look that up, and it'll actually let you know like where you probably should fall in a certain range based on your every 10-year age, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, and so forth and so on, right? So in general, especially for somebody like me at the beginning, right, being soon to be 45, in that 40 to 50 range, you want to be below 4, right? You want to be below 4, less than, or equal to 4. So drum roll, where mine fell, I was a 0.6, 0.6. So I was very, very normal, no concern with any type of prostate cancer at this time, right? That was one that I was really, really anticipating, couldn't wait, to make sure that, I got that one, because there was a lot of talk about that one. I've been talking about that one for months, especially with like Charles, Round Man. We had a whole panel and say everybody needs to get it done, get it checked. And I got mine checked, and I'm very happy that it was 0.6. Hemoglobin, A1C, that is up next. We all know about the A1C. We don't know nothing else, even us that's not diabetic, we know about the A1C, right? So I don't need to, I'll explain it anyway since I'm doing a video, right? So hemoglobin A1C measures the average amount of glucose in the blood over an extended period, typically 8 to 12 weeks, right? So that's why it's a good measure, right? No, they don't know about A1C. So high hemoglobin, right? A1C, HbA1c levels can be indicators of pre-diabetes and diabetes, among other conditions, right? Some folks think diabetes is great. Lord have mercy, Darren. HbA1c is also used to monitor glucose control in people with diabetes. The goal for most adults with diabetes is less than 7%. So we're looking to be less than 7% if you actually have diabetes, right? If you have diabetes, right? So for those people who do not, right, because there is a scale, pre-diabetes is 5.7 to 6.4. 5.7 to 6.4, right? So anything greater than 6.4 would be diabetic, right? Right, diabetic. However, glycemic control for adults with diabetes is less than 7, like I said. So if you're less than 7, you're within control, you have control, but you are diabetic if you use that 6.4 through 7. And I know a lot of individuals got on to get themselves back into that pre-diabetic range, right? Or below, right? So low is 4.4. Diabetic is above 6.5 or 6.5 and above, right? So mine is a 5.2. So I don't register at all, right? I'm not on the scale. I'm at normal, right? Because I'm not pre-diabetic, diabetic, or any of it, right? I'm 5.2. If you go way back to that glucose, if you remember, I believe it was 70. Let me shoot back up there real quick so I can tell y'all what it was. Because I went through a ton of numbers and I can't really remember what that one was. So I'll just shoot back to the top. And that was the first thing on here. So that's why I don't remember. It was so early. It was right out the gate. There's a boom. Here go your glucose. This where you at. This where you at. This where you at. So my glucose was 78. 78. That's where my glucose sits. It's 78, and my A1C is a 5.2. So those that are diabetic are very familiar. They know what that is. 78 for your glucose and 5.2. All right. So appreciate that, Traveling Techie. He says 5.2 is impressive for A1C. Okay. So let's get into the final one before we. So this one here is about the thyroid, right? The thyroid, right? So just to recap, we went over the white blood, the red blood, right? Which we're talking about cancer, anemia, leukemia, and all of those things. I have no factor, no level for any of that stuff. I cleared all of that. We talked about the kidney, right? We cleared that. We talked about the liver. We cleared that. We talked about the heart. We cleared that. We talked about the gallbladder. We cleared that, right? And we just talked about diabetes, right? We cleared that. And now we're going to, I got one more to talk about after the results, but we're going to talk about the thyroid, right? So with the thyroid, which is the test they also do, because we know that some are to lower A1C, avoid sugar. So I'll get back to that, Trevor. So the thyroid, it goes anywhere between 0.45, which is basically 0.45 to actual 4.5, right? So I am a pretty much 1.09, so a 1.1. So obviously we all know the lower the better, but you don't want to be too low or too high, right? In general, the lower the better. And I'm close to the lower, right? Because you got the hyper and you got the hypo. Hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism, right? So you definitely want to make sure that, you get this test and make sure that there's nothing going on there, because you can either be, gaining weight or losing weight based on where you are. Hyper, I'm pretty certain, is you could possibly be gaining a lot of weight. If you had that hypo, you could be losing weight. I'm actually normal on the scale at 1.1, basically 1.1, you want to say, because it's 1.09, so 1.1, right? So normal is anything above 0.45, which is like half, 0.45 and up is normal, but you don't want to go beyond, that 4.5. So everything was absolutely amazing with my blood work. She was happy with the weight loss, me losing 91 pounds, being at 228 pounds, that more now, 228 pounds. I've been fluctuating between 227 and 230, 231, 232, 220. I got like a 4 or 5 pound range I've been fluctuating in between. I did titrate up for those that don't know, to 12.5. So I am on 12.5 Zepbound. And that's because I primarily wanted to actually lose another 30 pounds. At least that's my goal. So if I could lose that 30 pounds, it'll put me comfortably out of obesity and just slightly overweight. So at that point, I will only be, if I could lose 30 pounds, I would just be about 15 pounds overweight. About 15 pounds overweight. And I'm so okay with that. It's okay to be a little bit overweight. None of us are going to be perfect. I'm not looking to be 183 pounds. I just don't believe in that, being that small like that, in my opinion, because that'll be based solely on BMI. And I feel like BMI is skewed, which I'm going to segue into that. First, I'm just going to celebrate, like I said, at this blood work. I'm very happy, proud of myself and glad that I took this, took the shot, because it takes a lot of courage to, take the step, to say, hey, I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to do all the things, me walking in the rain and working out and being in pain and fighting through with the osteoarthritis and all of that. And have very good lab work. I'm very proud of myself. The colonoscopy, that was the other thing. My colon is the only thing I didn't talk about, because I have to have a colonoscopy to actually speak about it, So you can get the little Cologuard test they send to the house, which you actually, do the stool thing and send it back. I don't want to do that. I just rather, appreciate that, Tamika. I just much rather go ahead and do a colonoscopy, and that way they can see, because the doctor told me they would be able to see if you have a hemorrhoid, and think with constipation, a lot of us do have them and probably don't know, so they'll be able to see all of that and then correct things right away immediately. So, and I also, like I said, made a not to speak for G's, I believe he has a normal functioning pancreas and not living with diabetes. His body can regulate the glucose efficiently and keeps his numbers lowered. Yes, absolutely. I do not have diabetes, traveling tech. So maybe traveling techie might have thought that I had that. I don't. I'm not diabetic, so but I will tell you I had elevated levels, right? My glucose I've had a high glucose, higher A1C. I never got to, I don't in my recollection, I don't think I crossed that line, but I can remember being like a 5.7 at one point, or 5.6, and having a higher glucose when I was actually of a larger weight. When I was a larger weight, my numbers wasn't what they are. So while I never crossed, I'm gonna say never, because I'll go back and look at I don't think I crossed in the pre-diabetic. Maybe I was. It could have been years ago where it tapped me, but I don't think so. But I have had higher levels. So, Travel Techie, just to answer your question in full, what you see here is definitely still lower than what I actually have seen. Even not being a diabetic, I still lowered myself completely away from that scale by doing all the things, losing weight, taking, this wonderful treatment that we have, figuring out the right things to eat, making sure that, I'm walking, I'm resistance training, and educating myself. Because number one is to educate yourself on what you're doing, right? And educate yourself on your body, right? Because if you're not educated on your body, you don't know how to treat it, right? And how you do that is work with a healthcare provider, which I'm not. I'm not a healthcare provider. So you work with a healthcare provider, and then they should be able to lead you and work with you in the right direction to get your numbers good. Because overall, like I was saying, my numbers are, simply amazing. It's almost like I was never fat. Like, you know what I mean? I'm still fat. You know what I mean? So, that's, hey, Turtle Dot. Hey, thank you. Appreciate you for stopping in. Make sure you watch the live back, because we went over a lot of my actual blood work. So the lab results is the main thing I wanted to talk about, and I broke everything down for people that might not dig into those 3-letter acronyms that we see when we get blood work. So it's good to know what they're about and what the levels are. So, but yes, I think that, like I said, getting my numbers here is just amazing. And the final step for me is that colonoscopy in March, so they can clear that. So, if and when we clear that, God willing, we 100%, we're 100% good, and I hope by then I might be down 20 pounds. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I want to get to that 198, 199, 200-pound mark, because that'll put me at 26.9 on the BMI, and take me, clearly out of obesity, not even close. And I think that means overall health for me, right? So, and this lab work is that. This is that. But clearly, for the colon, you need to visually, be able to see, what's going on. So that's what I wanted to do. And the other thing, be in Wonderland in no time. Hey man, I don't know, man. It seems like it might be a little struggle, man, to get to Wonderland. That's tough. But again, as long as I lose some more weight, I'm fine. Because remember, my original goal was 219. So if I don't ever get anywhere past that, I'll be more than fine, especially with lab work like this. Because I'm going to lose some weight. I'm on 12 and a half, and I'm, moving more and working out, so I'm anticipating that, but, I might gain some muscle too. So, you're right. I may not see Wonderland, but I'm okay with that if I'm gaining muscle and recomping, right? So, that's the thing. So, that's that. That is the lab work. I know Darren talked about, there's 2 other things I'm going to cover tonight. Like I said, get comfortable, because we got probably, good, another little bit of time in here where we're going to go over BMIs is being classified now. Like I said, shout out to Vanity, because she had like a 5-hour live. God bless her. I don't know how she do lives that long. It's insane to be on 4 and 5-hour lives like that. I can't do it. Not that long. It's like a work day. But I did get into it, and I couldn't watch all of it, but I did catch the obesity part, the BMI part, where they was trying to redefine what BMI parameters are using waist circumference, right? Not new. It's not that new because people have utilized that, but just on a massive scale, and determining what it is that is considered obese, because the individual was stating that if we also add in that waist line, pretty much measuring, that fat around that waist, which is going to get into our next topic. That's why I started here, because we're going to talk about body fat percentage, because Darium asked about that when I was in Twan's live. He said a lot of people were asking about that. So we're going to go into the body fat percentage in a minute, right? So everybody's giving you the numbers that it's working. Stop that foolish talk. You're going to be, you're going to be skinty. Hey, Darium, listen. It ain't even that, man. It's just health, man. I only chase health, man. I ain't chasing nothing else. I'm just simply chasing health. And if healthy, I'm only, I feel like, honoring what it is that God is doing for me. Because if he's taking my numbers in the proper direction, I just want to do my part. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Health India. Nice job. Congratulations on your journey. I seen your latest video. You're doing a good job. Very good job. So yes, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to honor, they say whom much is given, much is required, right? And 30 by 30. Oh man, it's funny you said that, man. 30 by 32. I'm actually in a 36 by 30 pants, and I think I could actually probably wear 35, but they don't wear the 30 because the 36 is a little bit loose, honestly. So, and I told you, 36, 30, that was like 11th grade, man. I ain't been in these 36, 34, that's like 11th grade. The last time I was in the 32, you going to middle school, man. I don't know. I mean, by the time if I lose 30 pounds, I probably would be in the 32. That'd be like, I'll be 13 all over again. But, yeah, so yeah, that's the thing, man. I'm just to whom much is given, much is required. And so if I'm blessed to actually be able to get my hands on the medication, take the medication, I just want to try to make sure I'm doing all of the things, especially the right things when it comes to what it is that we should be doing to ensure that we're doing our part. You know what I mean? So that's all I just want to get to, because if most people remember, when I first started the journey, I had a regular heartbeat, which I'm also, like I said, I have a colonoscopy scheduled. It's already scheduled. Well, actually, my appointment with the doctor to see him and then schedule the colonoscopy is scheduled. And then the actual cardiologist to actually visit with the cardiologist and do my ultrasound. So I'll have a colonoscopy as well as the heart ultrasound, because we went over all the other organs. So literally that will encompass all of the organs, right? So that's how you get a full body of picture of your health. Obviously you got the DEXA scan, which measures like the fat and all that, but I mean just your actual blood work to determine how well your organs are doing. So, I want to give Zep bound credit, but I also want to, we should give ourselves credit for all of the work we do. Number one, like I said, taking the leap to take the medication, taking the leap to, do all of the things. It's for yourself, right? You're working, for yourself, but at the same time, right? Being healthy is also being an example, right, to other people, right? You're helping out your family by being around longer, right? And you're actually being an example to other people that might want to do it. And if they see you do it, they say, hey, I can do it too. So that's why I continue to go. It ain't about me losing as much as absolute weight as possible, but it's more so about me. It is about losing, as much weight as possible to be healthy, right? But it's also making sure that I get to a point where I'm just slightly overweight, right? So if you look at the BMI charts, right, I'm still about 45 pounds overweight, right? Yeah, from an ideal body weight from what the BMI chart considers, right? BMI considers, for me, 184 pounds healthy, right? So that means that I am about 45 pounds away from what the ideal body weight is. So if I get myself to about 200, I'll just be 10 to 15, even if I get like to lower twos, you're only about 20 pounds away from that, right? So my wife entered the chat, so that's Taisha. It says Taisha 40 in there, so keep going, proud of you. Appreciate you. She has entered the chat for those that, and I told y'all we're going to do a couples live. She's doing amazing on her journey too, just so y'all know. She's down almost 25 pounds in just 16 weeks. You know, and she's on Zep 7.5, and she's enjoying her treadmill. Y'all seen the treadmill on Christmas? I had it by the tree, so she's been using it too. She putting it to work. It's up there in the living room, so shout out to her. She killing it. So, yep, she's doing it. So yeah, and but we're gonna I'll probably go live with her in probably another 10 weeks or so. Once she gets a little bit farther into her journey, you know, she'll have some more things to talk to you guys about. But yeah, so body fat, that's what we're talking about now. We're not talking about weight. We're talking about body fat, right? Because I could lose 30 pounds, right? And technically, right, I could literally still be fat, right? So I don't want to be skinny fat, you know, because my body fat right now is 30%, right? It's 30%. So that's why I still need to lose weight, because I don't want my body fat to be 30%. You know, I want my body fat to be 20%, right? So let's get into body fat, because Darren asked me to do a short, but instead of doing a short, I'm going to go into it and do it here. I'm going to talk about it right on the video. And like I said, I'll share it mine. I mean, I know what it is, but I want to be factual, so I like to get into the computer, right? I like to go into NIH. So body fat percentages averaged between 12 and 20% for men and 20 and 30% for women. Mic drop. So that's what I said in Twan's live. I said, ideally, you want to get to like that 20% mark, right? So I got about 10% of body fat I still need to lose. Now, the thing is, to be ideal, right? We might not end up being ideal all the time, right? So my goal is to try to get as close to ideal as I possibly can. That's the thing. I want to get as close to ideal as I possibly can. Whether I get there or not, it remains to be seen. So for the ladies, it's between 20 and 30. So if you check so again, I said I was at 30%. I'm right at 30% body fat, like exactly, right? When I started this journey, I was at 40%, right? I was at 40% body fat, right? So I lost 10% of my body fat, you know, but now with me still having another 10% to lose, I don't have 90 pounds left to lose, right? I don't have 90 pounds left to lose. You know, I could potentially lose 50, right? I could lose 50, you know what I mean? And you know, so I can't take another 90% to lose 10%, right? So that means that I have to do a little bit different, right? Increasing my muscle mass through working out, right? Lifting weights and things of that nature, you know, to crowd out that, you know, that fat, right? So to burn that up and crowd it out, because we don't want to just sit and lose, you know, muscle and other portions of our bodies, right? And then end up skinny fat or just skinny, right? So that is the main thing, right? So ladies do need to retain more body fat than men because of hormones, right? So you guys have a different reasoning, you know? So because a lot of us should notice, like with us losing weight, what has happened is we've gotten to the point where we are colder more often, right? We kind of feel like that because basically we don't have that same, you know, cushion, you know, around the organs and everything because you lost fat. That's a very good sign. You know, if you're cold all the time, if you've been cold all the time from day one and you're still cold, then not so much, you know. But if you're cold now, it's more than likely because of the amount of weight that you've lost, right? That's kind of what it is. So again, men, and if you go into my actual post, you'll see photos. If you go on my page, you go to post, you can go back and you'll see photos of those, what that looks like. That men from 6 all the way up to like 50%, and I think women from something like 12 all the way up to like 50% of fat. You know, obviously they have the videos here on YouTube too, right? I'm cold at 70. Yeah, but that's a good idea as to like how much fat you've lost off your body. You know, how much muscle burns, right? So that's the thing. Hey, look, I might not get the 20% body fat, but that's what I'm shooting for. I'm really shooting for it, you know, and I'll be proud of myself even if I hit 25. You know what I mean? I'm proud to be at 30 because, like I said, that's your general dad bod. That 30% fat. It's a middle-aged dad bod that has that 30%. The 20% is more ideal for health, and that's what I'm going for. 15 is more athlete, right? Between that 8 and 15% is more of like that athlete's body. You know what I mean? And that 6% is like, you out of here. That 5 and 6%, that's hard to maintain. That's like the washboard, hard, chisel abs and everything. And it's hard to maintain that, right? Because, you will get there. It's better than day one. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely better than day one. You know what I mean? So, for sure, because being at 40% wasn't fun. You know what I mean? So being at 30%, it's okay because as we just went over, my lab work is good. So I'm healthy. I'm a healthy big guy. You know what I mean? I'm still healthy. And I'm a little big guy now. I ain't a big guy. I used to be a big guy. Now I'm a little big guy. I'm not, because I can wear extra. I'm wearing extra large shirts. So that means I'm a little big guy, not a big guy. So my ultimate thing is to be in a large shirt, a size 34, 32, whatever pants, and be a 200 and some low number of pounds. You know what I mean? And I'll be off into the sunset. You know what I mean? So that's my whole thing, and maintaining it. I'm not trying to go to be 175 pounds and doing like competitions and ripping. No, that's not me. I'm not there. In my life. So. I'll be really happy. But I just wanted to go over that real quick, though, with everybody about ideal body fat, because there was a lot of people in Twine's live, like I said, that was actually looking for, believe it or not, they didn't know, like what that should be, because we always get up and say, how much you weigh today? How much you weigh yesterday? I mean, from last week. But realistically, when we get to a certain point in our journey, that's very good in the beginning, right? In the beginning, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like people let's say like my wife, people that's like when they're just starting off, and they're in like anywhere from their beginning to like, let's say week 25, right? That's the beginning of your journey, right? Maybe even 30, week 30, right? Because you're not yet a year in. But once you get to like week 50 and 60 and 80 and all that, it ain't about the scale, you know what I mean? Because the weight will pause, but it's about your fat. What is your body fat percentage on there, right? So if you're a lady right now and you're looking at, well, man, my body fat percentage is 45, you know what I mean? Which is high for anybody. If you could just get it to, let's say 35 from being, it'll improve a great deal, right? You might not hit that, 25 or 30, percent, but it's just, hey, beautiful, I'm colored. Thanks for joining the chat. You might not, be able to, Evelyn, that's your name, Evelyn? Because Darren's saying Evelyn. That's cool. I didn't know your name was Evelyn. That's why I always say the whole thing. So cool, Evelyn. Glad you could join us tonight. But yeah, so that's the thing. So with Healthline, and this is kind of like the last thing I do want to. I still feel like I'm new in the GOP world. 25 weeks in, yes, I'm here in the bushes. Yeah, sweatpants and champagne, but hiding out, not saying nothing. Yeah, so that's what I mean, because I'm on week 52, obviously, right? I just closed week 52, and obviously I'm still new. That's 1 year in. But I can remember I felt like I had such a long way to go until I got to like week 30. Once I got to like week 30, I started to feel like very comfortable and felt like, I could, speak to a lot of things. You know what I mean? I was way up in, way down, I should say, in my weight, and I felt more comfortable saying, a lot of different things because I had enough information, right? So again, and I do want to, let me just go into this real quick and I'll come back to, I'm going to Healthline's, the ideal. So ideal body fat percentage for women, essential fat, 10 to 13%, athletes, 14 to 20%, fitness is 21 to 24%, average is 25 to 31%. So the next time you get on your scale, right, you can actually take a look and see where you are, where do you land? Right. And that way you won't necessarily just simply be looking at the actual weight. Right. Because it's not all about weight. It's really about these percentages at some point. Right. Because you're not going to lose weight forever. Right. You're not going to lose weight forever. At some point you're going to stop losing weight. But you need to see what does your body composition look like. Right. Because that's really what it's about. That body composition actually is what's going to determine your look. Because I know a lot of ladies, like, they like to keep the attributes, right? They want to keep the the right proportion. You know what I mean? You want the hourglass figure, right? You want the smaller waist with the larger hips and the bust, right? So how you do that is by reducing that stomach fat. But you do know that a lot of ladies carry a lot in the hip area, right? So there's a lot of like that lower body fat, but some of that is very essential, right? Some of that is essential. So you do need to maintain some of that too. You don't want to lose it all due to, like I said, the reasons being, like I said, hormonal. So that's for women. All right, let me go back. That was for women, and then for men. All right, so for men, essential fats are 2 to 5% and 6 to 13%. Now that 5 to 6% was where I was telling y'all it's very hard to maintain, right? It's super hard to maintain that 5 to 6%. You actually can make yourself sick. You can feel very bad if your body fat gets that low. Because like even going through that blood work, I explained, to you, some of that body fat is essential. You know what I mean? Like those body fats are very essential, so to speak, for various reasons. You know what I mean? So where I won't go, because it'll be a whole nother, if I tell you all the reasons why, you should maintain that body fat, we'll be here all night. And I know we don't want to do that. So, but basically, for men, like I said, you definitely want to be, within those general percentages of 12 to 20%. You don't necessarily have to be, somebody that's getting down to that, anywhere from 5 to 12%, because those are typically, for athletes. Athletes are going to be the people that do that. So essential for men is 10 to 13, athletes 14 to 20, and fitness 21 to 24. So I actually can give, even myself even a little more grace, right? Because like I said, I would like to be at 20%, but this here is telling me fitness would actually have me doing the 21 to 24, right? Fitness would actually have me in 21 to 24, and I'm at 30, like I said. So average is 25 to 31. So who knew? Technically, right? Technically, my body fat is considered average because, like I said, I'm at a 30. My BMI is 31, and my body fat is 30, right? So that means that technically I'm at average body fat. Obesity body fat is a 32 or above. So look at that. I beat body fat, and this is from Healthline. This is from Healthline. That's the source that I'm citing, Healthline. So literally, I beat body fat, being in the obese category actually already for body fat percentage by 2%. This is saying that I'm average. But I would like to be where the fitness is at a 25 or below, right? So that was just the thing in the body fat, because the BMI conversation came up, like I said, on Vanity's Live. She was talking about, us being in trouble because now they're talking about, the BMI chart that they use not being stringent enough because it's not calculating waist circumference, right? So if you add your waist in there, what does it look like? Because that's where you actually look at it, not just BMI, right? So obviously we have people on different journeys here. You got people that's doing that are literally like on their journey because they're diabetic. Some people just on their for health, and you got some people that are not too far in obesity but want to just look better and feel better. So that's that. So let me get into the comments and talk to y'all, because I know I've been going on and on for quite a while here. I just want to get through the comments real quick and see what we're chatting about in there, and shout it out. Get my MacBook out the way. See what we talking about here. So I'm gonna go back just a little bit. I think I was keeping up, but yeah, I think I was keeping up. Jen says, I miss week 25. Next month will be 2 years for me. Yep, Jen is the GOAT. So anybody that don't, she the female GOAT, because she done lost nearly 50% of her body fat from her weight from baseline. Weight, I should say 50% of her weight from baseline. 48% to be exact. That is absolutely amazing. 48%. You got some of us, and again, when I say these things, I'm kind of speaking to non-diabetics. I know it's a lot tougher for diabetics to get those high percentages, but for those that are non-diabetic, and getting those numbers like that is like, she pretty much in the minority. She's definitely an anomaly and way in the minority. Those people that you see with the 50%, they are a very small percentage in the trials that actually get that far. Very small, very small. So Gray says, "Woo, happy upcoming anniversary to Jen." She sent everybody saying, hey. Jen says, thanks. Evelyn says, yes, congratulations. Thanks, beautiful on the cover. Grace says, but so worth it, doctor. 49%. I think it was 40. Yeah, I just said that, Grace. 49% is crazy. 49% is absolutely nuts to lose that much, weight. She lost half of her body. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Obviously you have to have it to lose. Everybody's not going to lose 50% because they don't need to. You got some people that only need to lose, 15% of their body and they're actually fine because they're closer to their weight. So we do have questions. Geez, did you share where your body fat go? My body fat go? Absolutely, I did. You probably got to watch it back, watch the replay. I shared. So this live was pretty much about my lab results. I went over them line by line. I went over the acronyms because there's a lot of acronyms, the 3-digit acronyms. That 3-letter acronyms that people don't understand. I cover all my organs, my blood work. I covered all of my cancer screening. So just to recap for everybody, since she asked me, I'll do a quick recap. Because we caught up anyway. The only question is, geez, did you share your? Anybody got questions? Just put Q's. Put Q's in the chat, and then put your questions, and then I'll answer them. So even if it's about blood work, if you wanted to, talk about something from the blood work that I might have said that you might need clarification on. But I talked about tomorrow makes my 1-year anniversary for starting the Zepbound, taking the pen, being proud of myself for doing that. And I had what I consider stellar lab work because I was very normal. I was in what we call not the messy middle, because we know Darium talks about the messy middle, but my blood work was very middle, completely normal, everything with for the most part. And the only thing, I went over all of my organs: heart, kidneys, liver, gallbladder, thyroid, and prostate. I went over all of that, and everything, is very, very, very good. And I'm actually getting a colonoscopy in March. So, and then ultrasound of the heart, obviously, and literally, that's 100% overhaul for me for health. And we talked about body fat because I said that at some point, right, I'm on week 52, right? So what they say is after about his body fat goal is to be 1% body fat. Man, don't listen to Darium. Don't you listen to Darium. My goal, my body fat goal, and seeing what I seen was to be the ultimate goal, 20%, right? But in reading what I read from Healthline, 25% is actually average, right? My body fat is already out of obesity. Give or take. Now, we can take that with a grain of salt, right? Because my BMI is 30, right? Or 31, I'm sorry. My body fat percent based on my scale is 30%. So 30% body fat, and 30 is my is 31 is my BMI, right? My goal for my BMI is 26.9 or 27, however you want to. And I need to be 199 pounds to reach that, right? And I only have 30 pounds to lose to get there, really, 29 pounds technically. So if I lose 29, 30 pounds, that puts me at a BMI of 27 or 26.9, just 15 pounds from my ideal body weight, right? Which I'm okay with because I don't have a desire to be 180 pounds ever. Because the last time I was 180 pounds, I think I was 13. All right, so no. But I'm okay with being 200 pounds is what I'm saying. So if I lose 30 pounds, which I plan to over the course of this year, that's my goal, is to add muscle and lose fat. Because we can't just keep looking at the scale saying I lost weight, I lost weight, I lost weight. How much fat did you lose? How much body fat did you lose? How much muscle did you gain at some point? That's okay in the beginning of your journey, right? When you're halfway in, right? Probably the first year for most people, right? If you want to take 52 weeks, slow and steady, and just worry about losing overall weight, I understand it. I lost 91 pounds. So some days it's 92. I don't know. But, ultimately, we all know that at some point we got to look at our composition of our body and body fat. So when we look at that and don't ignore those numbers, right, which is what you do, I think Sweatpants Champagne, she said she was at like week 25. So 25 weeks from now, right, you're probably going to start to look at, I've lost my weight, but what does my body look like, And if I do lose more weight, how do I lose it? What ways can I contour my body? Because like I said, a lot of the ladies want that, kind of like that hourglass, kind of like heavier at the bottom, very small in the mid section, a little, pronounced in the upper section. So to get that, you got to lose that body fat around that stomach, right? But a lot of ladies do carry some weight low. So what type of exercises do I need to do to get to that, right? So my goal is, like I said, to be around 20 to 25% body fat, not 30 where I am today, and I'll be completely satisfied. Are the lab panel names that we should request, not individual but groupings? So what I would do is ask for a comprehensive full, right? Because this was my annual labs. So I asked for a full comprehensive panel of blood work. So that included a PSA for me because I wanted cancer screenings. Because a lot of people, the prostate one isn't one that they do automatic. I don't know if you know Charles around on the Zepaversary. We had a men's panel probably about a year ago, which we probably need to have another one. I got to talk to him. I'll send him a message because it's probably about time. Darren, you probably want to talk to Charles because it's been a long time since we had a panel. We probably, as men, should get back together and do another one if time permits, right? So basically what you want to do, because I want to talk about cancer, right? That was my thing, because a lot of us African-American males don't get our prostates checked and screened for cancer. So if you guys have significant others, husbands, partners, friend, boyfriend, fiance, whatever that is, speak to that man, have him watch this, especially if he's of a certain age, meaning he's above 40. I'll be 45 in 2 weeks. So the whole thing is, God willing, I wanted to make sure I got my prostate checked. I want to be screened because the reason why a lot of us lose our lives to it is because we get screened way too late, way too late. And it's not because it's not a beatable thing. It's just that it's too late. So we need to get our colons checked at 45. That's why I have my colonoscopy set. So you ladies are highly important because you are, believe it or not, in control, so to speak, when it comes to your significant other's health, because they'll listen to you if you make a gripe about it, right? So make a gripe about it and say, hey, I want you to be around for us, our kids, myself, and even for your own self, so we need you to get those things checked out now. So that way, when you go, it's not, too late or too far gone. Because us African-Americans and like Hispanics and, multicultural individuals, men die at a much higher rate than any other race. And it's simply because we just didn't get it checked when we were 40 or 45, and get on it early enough. So ask for a comprehensive panel for yourself. You ladies obviously, do a little bit different because you have to get, the mammograms, you know what I'm saying? But you also should be getting colonoscopies too, because mammogram is the other thing. That's the other thing that you ladies should be going. But you also need to make sure, you're getting your, GYN, the portion of your GYN exams done the appropriate way too, because there's a lot of cervical cancers and things like that that could be caught early too, if we actually just do the test to check them. Gray says, geez, I found it helpful to upload my labs to AI and explained it and really easy so I could be prepared to chat up. Yes, absolutely. Please do. I'm more of a a little more old school. So I don't do a lot of the chat GBT and all that stuff. I probably should. I'll Google something real quick, but I literally do the reading for myself. I pull up the internet, but I do the reading. I really don't do the AI thing, but and I was actually, before now, actually talking to my doctor about these things, because I was thinking about him being an obese male for a lot of my life, being at this point that I wanted to actually know about all of these things. But whatever works, sorry if this is a dumb question, but are the gentlemen here also seeing Ozempic? But absolutely we are. We are seeing Ozempic, but see, the problem with me, I had no butt at all beforehand. So I'm really just a flat wall now. You know what I'm saying? Yes, absolutely. Of course we do. So you know why that is, right, Grace? If you go and look at the GLP-1s, one of the main targets of fat, or one of the areas that fat leaves is your extremities, right? Your lower extremities, right? And that behind is a lower extremity. It targets that. So we lose a lot of fat from that extremity. So yeah, we do suffer with that too. But I don't think anybody really care. They mainly don't really care too much about the men's butts. At least I can't speak for ladies, but I'm just saying I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, that's not something. So I don't think we think about it. We definitely do. We definitely do. We definitely do. So Tamika says, so true. Evelyn said, that's a great tip about having a conversation with our partner. Please do. Please have that conversation. If you have not, that's where it starts, as a conversation. And I'm willing to bet it's like we always think that's like going to the dentist, right? And you think, oh, well, I just was at the dentist. And you call and they're like, well, we haven't seen you in 2 years. It goes quick. So yes, get on it. If you have not spoke to your partners about this health, prostate for sure. Please speak to the men about the prostate and colon. Prostate and colon. Speak to the men. So I get to be a nagging woman for a good cause. Absolutely. Please do. I'm with you. I enjoyed the AI assistance on lab and scans. Yeah, Darren, see, you futuristic, Darren. We know that. We know you futuristic. You know what I mean? See now, when I say that, I'm a techie at heart. And what I mean, when I say techie, I mean like, I probably shouldn't, because I'm just all about the latest devices, the latest Samsung televisions, the Apple book, the latest iPhone, all that. But I'm just saying I haven't totally got with the AI thing. That's all. You know what I mean? I haven't done that. Like, I ain't dive into that. But as far as being on the computer, I'm all about it. My cousin and 2 uncles were diagnosed with colon cancer. You are right about when they catch it. Both of my uncles are in remission. My cousin was too far and he passed. Whoa, see? See that? Miss Nikki said her cousin's passed. That is so sad to hear, man. So sad to hear. Yeah, please talk to y'all people. Heck, if they sit next to you, talk to them now. Tell them to come watch this video. You know what I mean? It's cool to do. It's cool to get your son. Look, you might have a little bit of fear. I mean, hey, I still got to get the colonoscopy. I got everything else except that. So that's the one thing I got to do. But hey, you got to get it knocked down. That's how I've always been. I'd rather face it right now and get it out the way, because I'd rather be around, right? I got a 7-year-old. I got to be around, because if not, she gonna kill me and make me alive and kill me again. so I ain't got no choice. She could come get me out the ground and bring me back and kill me again if I don't get this stuff done. So, and she wants to be a doctor. At least that's what she told me. She's 7 years old and would like to be a doctor. So we'll see. It's very important to keep up with your screenings. Grace says, does anyone else think Jelly Roll is on the pen but hiding it? I don't know who that is. She is Tamika. I had no idea men go through that as well. I'm not sure what, but yes, we do. We go through that too. You're talking about the Ozempic butt, which is what she asked about. Ladies, you have so much influence on the men in your life. Please speak to them lovingly. Make the appointment. Go with them. Yes. Geez, get with the AI, man. Don't get left behind. You are into tech and you know AI is a way. I do. I'm just saying I just haven't done it. This ain't been in my wheelhouse. I have so many things I'm doing. I love to be wrong, but the kind of transformation that quickly, Jen, wait a minute, I love to be wrong, but that kind of transformation that quickly, Jen, don't doubt he's putting in hard work. But, oh, y'all must be talking about Jelly Roll. I don't know. I think so too, great. Oh, yeah, y'all having a side conversation. I don't know what that's about. Something about Jelly Roll. I don't really care. I mean, if somebody's on as long as they're trying to better their health, I'm all for it. I can care less. Like, take whatever you need to get healthy. I mean, we all know that. We all know better than that now. I'm with anything that you take to make yourself better. I'm for it. I mean, we still having the conversations of, it's like anytime you lose a large amount of weight, people say, and right away they say, well, what, you taking something? You know what I mean? So, don't worry about it. You're going to hear that all the time. But my thing is, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Because those people don't know that it's still hard work. Even when you're taking something, it's still important to do the work. It's not simple, so you got to do the work. You got to do the work. You know what I mean? So it's not like you can just take a pen and just relax. So just to recap, since there's no more questions, I mean, if you guys had any questions, I would feel free, to put them in, because I'll answer them, but I'm just like kind of wrap everything up. So the lab work was very important. I'm very excited. I'm actually back to work tomorrow. Oh my God, it's been 10 weeks. So, that's going to be a doozy. Going to work tomorrow. Ooh, different day. But I'm ready. I got my protein shake, my water, you know what I mean? I'm ready to go, you know what I mean? So I should be good. And like I said, I had my last post-op appointment this past Friday, so the toe healed really well. Thank you, Grace. So the toe healed up really well. Like I said, I got my other ankle, to deal with, because that's something. But we're gonna wait like a year before we mess with anything else. But I do have to deal with that too, because that's a problem that actually hurts. Like after I do like my squats, because I really love doing squats. Like, that's my thing. I'll squat. But it actually hurts the ankle, so I do gotta actually try to take care of that. In the coming probably 2027 is when I'll probably address that. But yeah, that's the thing. I'm just going to try to walk and get my resistance training, get down to my 219. That's my most immediate goal. Is I want to be 219. Don't forget to get your elements. I'm good with element for whoever need it. I just want people to get tested and not just take it haphazardly. 10 weeks seems like it went by fast. Have a great. Absolutely, you telling me it did go by fast, man. I mean, it's been 10 weeks. I can't believe it. It's been 10 weeks. It's been 10 weeks, because most people could remember me saying I'm about to be off. That was back right before Halloween, and now going back to crazy land, So I'm sure your family will throw that party, get out there. Well, they gotta go to school tomorrow, so them two they going to school tomorrow. My wife is in the office. She had a great deal of time off too. After the surgery and stuff like that. So she's been working from home. And I don't want to say time off, but time from going to the office, because she hybrid. She goes in a few days a week and works at home a few days a week. So she has she's actually full throttle this coming week, too. So it should be, the week's going to fly by. We have our event coming up in April. Shades of Blue. It's going to be a futuristic. You talking about futuristic? So we actually going to have a futuristic event. I'll post the flyer in our link drops on Eventbrite on my wife's birthday, January 25th. So anybody that's interested, should consider actually coming to one of those events. It's a very good networking event, because they're all people that own their own businesses or do different things. It could be a realtor. It could be somebody that actually, creates things. And when I say create things, they create clothing. People that actually have services, home health care, all types of individuals. We bring them together in one facility, and they actually network with each other, with the vendors, and it's a good time because all you can eat. We have live DJ entertainment, so it's a good time. That's going to be Sunday in April. I'm pretty sure it's April 12th, but I'll post the flyer, and anybody that's interested should look into it. Because I was talking about something for all of us to actually kind of get into together, sort of kind of where, if people are willing to kind of meet up, so I think that would be very, very good. But yes, so yeah, just to wrap up, I thank everybody for joining me. I think I broke another record. I've been on here for, a little more than an hour and a half, probably. Yeah, a little more than an hour and a half now. So it ain't touching Vanity's 5 hours. I mean, it had to be a record. I mean, I think she was at like a 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hour live. I mean, that's crazy. I don't think I could do it. But she has a way of going through she plays different videos and kind of covers different topics that way. So they watch the video, then they talk about it. So she's not talking the whole time. So I understand how she does it, but I'm just saying, for me that's long. But I think it was a good topic with the obesity thing, because she was covering. That's what I wanted to talk about real quick. She was covering the different diets, like the diets that people had back in the past versus the diets that people have today. Because she was saying, talking about, we say that genetics is a big issue now, when it comes to the reason why our society is what it is and as obese as it is. But there's a lot to that, right? Because she was talking about the foods that they ate in the 70s, right? Or I guess from the 1900s up into the 70s, and why weren't they obese like we are today, right? So you have to link up with Zepaversary, and she's in Philly. Yeah, I haven't seen Ange on anything forever. But I'm going to look her up and send her an email and see if she is interested, you know what I mean, in something like that. I definitely will. Cause somebody mentioned that before, so I'm gonna definitely make sure I do that, Jen. But no, she was talking about the foods, saying that maybe the foods that they ate was a part of why they might not be, in the situation that we ended up in, because of the foods. And technically, I want to say it's two things can be true at the same time. And I feel like most likely they didn't eat great, you know what I mean? But they were more active physically, right? Because our lives shifted to sedentary because of what? The internet, computers, right? Computers became the thing, and we start sitting down doing this, talking and reading. Everything with them was mobile. It was mobile, right? Think about how we communicated back in the day. We actually left out and walked wherever we had to go just to talk, have a conversation, right? So I think that there was a lot more movement, not so much quality of food, because the quality of food necessarily wasn't that great. It probably was more whole foods, I'll say that. So maybe what I'm saying could be taken two ways, because if it is more whole foods, in general, it is more healthy, right? Because it was natural, not processed, right? Because, once we got the microwave and all that, we start doing things, cooking it quicker instead of putting it in the instead of cooking it in the stove. So, but what I am saying with that is a lot of times we didn't prepare it as healthily as we should have either. Meaning they used a lot of ingredients that we probably shouldn't have. And I get to speak for myself. When I say biology will always matter, we can't always point to genetics 100%, but it will always play a factor, and sometimes a strong one. And one thing I'll say is, like, I had hypertension. My grandmother had hypertension, but my grandmother was thin. My grandmother was thin, and she had hypertension, right? My grandmother was thin lady with hypertension her whole life, right? At least, well, from adulthood, her whole adulthood, you know what I mean? Until she died, she had hypertension. When my grandma died, she was probably 93 pounds, and she had hypertension. So, some things are, so I know I'm genetically predisposed, period. So it ain't no question that, you know what I'm saying, that my genetics play a part. You know what I mean? And on my father's side, that's my mother's side. On my father's side, most of my family, a lot of them was overweight, and they had breast cancer, different cancers and things of that nature. My father's mother died from breast cancer when he was 17. So, and that was in the 70s. She died in the 70s. So, because my parents are in their 60s. My grandmother was born in 1924. So she would have, been a part of, she's been a small kid during the Great Depression, but she came to Philadelphia very young. She came from Georgia. She left her house, her parents' house at 16. And she came up here alone, and she used to work in the houses of what she used to call the rich folk, and she used to clean for them, and she used to work for $2 a day. She used to work for $2 a day when she first got here. And that was, like I said, probably in 1942, I want to say. And at that time, that was a fair wage, for her, being someone that actually came from the South, and she used to work in there, ironing, cleaning, doing baseboards and stuff that we call home health aides today is what she did then. Where they're making, some of them making $15 an hour. She was making $2 a day, right? After being there all day. So you can do the math for yourself. Right? What was she making? About 15 cents an hour, back then? So I guess things are relative. But she had hypertension, you know what I mean? And a lot of it was obviously condition-based and stuff like that, environmental. But I'm definitely I am a proponent of obesity. Not a proponent, I am, someone that actually comes from a lineage that suffered with obesity and hypertension and all of the things. I'm saying, you name it. You know what I mean? So I get it honest. You know what I mean? It's not just because of the internet age and what some of the other things. So it's a mixed bowl. It's a real mixed bag, of things and reasons why. But I think it is a good conversation as to why we end up how we end up, with all of these things. You know what I mean? But I know for a fact she definitely had those things. On my mother's side had more of the illnesses, not so much the weight. My father's side had the weight problem. So I end up in the middle of all of that, which created, the handsome man that you guys see here today. So, all right, y'all. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I don't think did I miss anything? I missed the conversation. I have thoughts, but just know I'm off the beaten path. I'm not sure what that is, but I thank you guys for joining me tonight. I don't want to, like I said, hold you guys any longer. We are back to Sunday nights. I will be here, hopefully every Sunday at 7:30. I came in a little bit tardy just to piss Darian off tonight. Because he said he threatened to fire me. So I figured I'd be about 10 to 15 minutes late, fashionably late. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, we'll be here about 7:30 every Sunday night. So don't be a stranger. Make sure y'all tap in with me. I thank y'all for spending time with me tonight. Happy Zepaversary to me. Lies at 7:30 CPT. Color people. Yeah, well, like I said, Yeah, thank y'all for joining me tonight. I'm very excited about my lab work. Thankful about reaching the 1 year on Zepbound. I congratulate all of you who are about to hit your 1 year or have already. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Have a great night. My obesity warriors stand up, and I'll catch y'all next Sunday. Later.